Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ReCoop. I'm Cooper Daniels, and I'm a guy that knows a little about a lot. And today I am here with Matthew Cornelisse. He is a longtime Digibyte developer and the co-founder of DigiassetX. What's going on, Matthew?
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. And thanks, and good to meet you. Thanks for coming on, man.
So you asked what's going on. I've been busy building Exchange and working on keeping things moving on improving DigiassetX.
Yeah, which is just seems to be growing in popularity. I think I saw you post recently that DigiAsset V3, DigiassetX has minted more assets than both V1 and V2 combined. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct. I haven't actually double checked the numbers, but I know there's been quite a few made on the V3, and there weren't actually that many on V1 and 2 to start with.
So what you're saying, was it wasn't a massive mountain to climb. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think there was about 1,200 assets to start with from V1 and 2.
Okay. Well, and
V3
then
is definitely growing.
It's growing, and there's a lot of, and every time I kind of check in, there's a new project. There's always, there's new people minting. So, okay, we're going to talk all about that. But before we get into that, I'm sure that there's some people out there that don't know who you are and maybe don't even know what DigiassetX is. So why don't we start? Why don't we just start telling everybody a little bit about who you are, how you got to blockchain, and Digibyte.
Well, I've been programming for quite a while. My original degree in school is in electronics, telecommunications, and microcontroller systems.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't done a lot with that lately, but one of the things it taught me is to be very efficient with things.
Right.
Now, modern computers, no one's efficient anymore, so it's not something. But when you get to blockchain, efficiency is very important.
Right.
We're trying to squeeze as much information into a tiny amount, like the DigiAssets are only 80 bytes, the actual data being encoded. So you got to be efficient. And I think that almost craziness of myself of sticking with that efficiency to some extent helps make me good at the improvements for DigiAssets and stuff like that.
Right. So what is it about you that do you find yourself to be like an obsessive person? Like you need things to be a certain way so that efficiency really appeals to you, or what is
obsessive? No. Except for security, but yeah.
Well, that's good, right?
I hate usernames and passwords. It annoys me that websites still to this day use username and passwords. It annoys me that banks are doing text-based two-factor authentication. Like these are all proven ineffective and inefficient, and that annoys me.
Yeah. And you've been working to solve this for quite some time, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons, like DigiassetX, the only login method right now is the Digi ID.
Yeah.
I did hint recently that I probably will do a Web3 login at some point because it is also a secure login method.
Right.
But username and passwords, never.
So real quick, and I do want to kind of flesh out a little bit about who you are, but so DigiassetX is basically, there's a web wallet there, right? And then in order to sign on, you use Digi ID.
That's correct, yes.
So that Digi ID makes, web wallets, there's a lack of security sometimes to that, but with Digi ID, that gives it an extra layer of security that makes it pretty hard to crack.
Yeah, it takes away the username password risk factor. There is still obviously potential risks in phishing and stuff, which is why on your wallet, when you're signing in with Digi ID, it tells you the domain of where you're logging in. And it's essential that you always check that because that prevents phishing.
Well, look, I want to talk about this. We're obviously going to talk about Digi ID and DigiPassword and all that. But so you studied all this. You were into efficiency, and blockchain appealed to you because of that. Was your first entry into blockchain Digibyte, or was it Bitcoin before that, or some other project?
My first entry was Bitcoin.
Yeah,
back in 2017. I did very quickly find Digibyte and thought it was a really cool project.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that there was an encouragement to start programming on it.
Yeah. So the encouragement, did that come from the community or from the fact that you saw that there was a something that was needed
well, there's the needed part, but there was also that there was some libraries and stuff. Now, it turned out these libraries were actually a waste of time and not all designed, but it got me into it and it got me programming it, and it drove me crazy a lot of times because, as I said, there was a lot of 404s not found and all kinds of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, Digibyte got me into it because of these things, but I ended up going back to Bitcoin to find the real code to work with.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, and and Digibyte is a fork of the Bitcoin code base. I guess it's technically a fork of Litecoin, right? But
well, kind of. It's a fork of Bitcoin. It's improving on. It takes Litecoin's improvements in that too. But both Bitcoin and Litecoin are based on, or sorry, Digibyte and Litecoin are based on Bitcoin's code base, and they keep updating to keep up with it too.
And so, okay, so let's talk about Digibyte for a second. So, what is it about Digibyte that you saw then, and what do you see now that that you think makes it worthwhile, why more people should know it, why more people should be building on it, why they should be minting their NFTs on it, all of these things? Like, what is it about Digibyte that appeals to you?
Well, what appeals to me is the Bitcoin design, the UTXO base, is bulletproof and is simple.
Yeah.
The only problem is Bitcoin is really, really slow.
Right. Yeah.
So Digibyte keeps the Bitcoin, all the great things of Bitcoin, but also adds speed.
Yeah.
So when you want to do stuff like NFTs and that, you have the simplicity, the bulletproofness of Bitcoin, but you have the speed that Digibyte now provides, and it works really well. There's a lot of things that can be done, and there's it can't do everything that an EVM chain can do.
Right.
But on the same side of it, a lot of those things that EVM chains can do, like instant loans and this type of thing, are things that people don't tend to think about and cause them to lose money.
Right. Well, that's true. There is definitely, when it comes to that type of, DeFi and the world of, finance, really, which is a huge opportunity, and which is part of what I love about it as well, is because it does sort of democratize finance. You don't have to be super wealthy to get an aggressive yield. There's a cool thing there, but we see it every day, these huge hacks and how insecure that world can be. And as somebody that started this conversation with look, I'm not obsessive about anything but security, I can see your hesitancy. So I can understand it. So, okay. So you have that, you have the speed, you have that security of Bitcoin, but then you have Digibyte. And also something that appealed to me at first about Digibyte as well is how innovative it seems to be with it. It's maybe, if you want to call Litecoin his brother or something, and dad is, Bitcoin or something, but its little family, this family of, blockchains that have been around for a while, there's been a lot of innovation from Digibyte, right?
There really has. And all the old chains, they've been around for a long time. They're maybe not as fast as some of the others to implement new things, but they do innovate. There's a lot of cool things that have been done to them that are improvements on time. And not moving lightning fast isn't always a bad thing, because you don't want to make mistakes.
Right. Right. And, there's something to be said about Digibyte being around since 2014 and, surviving all that time. And, it's the longest UTXO blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. These are all the things that we tell each other. Right. So, I mean, and it's also true. So, okay. So what are some of the things? Would you mind, maybe if people are unfamiliar with Digibyte, what are some of the things that Digibyte led on?
I don't want to go Yeah, like I don't have a list of things that, oh, here's Digibyte versus that. And I don't really want to spout out a whole bunch of things without going out and researching if half of them true. Because like half the times you see people quoting things on Twitter and stuff, half the time they're not even right.
Or they're half right. A lot of times they're
half right or that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say Digibyte's the best at everything. And I think there's a problem in this world today that everyone wants to be, oh, this is the best and this is the best. And also people wanting to say that this has to be able to do all this. Digibyte is a UTXO chain. It is strong, secure. It is fast. It is good for a lot of things. Now, it doesn't have Turing complete contracts. That's fine. That's not what it was built for. If you want that, use an EVM chain. Yeah. It doesn't need to be an EVM chain. I don't think that's a good thing for it to be an EVM chain. We need both. We need the EVM chains. We need the UTXO chains. Absolutely. Trying to mix them is going to cause problems.
Right. Right. And you don't see, I mean, speaking of DigiassetX and DigiAssets in general, you don't, I mean, maybe you can educate me a little bit here, but like, you don't see a lot of UTXO blockchains with kind of these layer twos and like these, you know, NFT, like those types of assets being created on it, right? Is that, am I right about that? Or
there's a few, but a lot of people have aren't using the UTXO chain style anymore. Most seem to have, like most projects out there nowadays aren't coins; they're tokens on an EVM chain. Like,
yeah, for sure. So that's why that's happening.
Yeah.
So okay, so then that leads us to DigiAssets, right? So the first incarnation of DigiAssets was. It feels like at that point, it was like there was a lot of hype around it, but it maybe wasn't quite ready for prime time, right? It was a little centralized. It was a little like it wasn't ready. And that's the answer, right? Yes. And well, so go ahead.
I liked the idea when they came out with it. And then I started trying to program on it and trying to do stuff with it. And I very quickly found out like it's completely centralized. There's one server that controlled the entire version 1 and 2.
Yeah.
In fact, I said there's about 1,200 DigiAssets out there on V1 and 2. Mm-hmm. There's only about 15 of them are actually properly encoded. Most of them are actually corrupt.
Oh wow! So okay. Yeah. And are you running?
There was a website called CreateDigiassets.com. Mm-hmm. Every single one it created is corrupt. Like they're not. There was error in its software and no one noticed.
Nobody noticed, but except for, but now that you've been working on V3 for so long, right? Like you started to notice, I guess.
Yeah. So, and the big thing, like a lot of the things that V3 included, I didn't even come up with the idea. They're right in the documentation of V2 of this is something that we could do. And here's how to do it, but never where it was implemented.
Right.
So, like the V3 assets or V1 and 2 had assets you were able to send up to 13 people at a time. Mm-hmm. Great. Most wallets don't even take advantage of this. You usually send to one person at a time. Well, 2, including a return to yourself. Right. The V3 assets, though, took advantage of a feature that was documented but never implemented. And now we can send up to 1,023 people at the same time. Nice. That was a great idea. Why it was never implemented is a good question.
Well, I mean, why? Is it just because people didn't fully flesh it out, or maybe they just missed it, or
they just didn't flesh it out? They just didn't write the code to make it work, and they just documented that not implemented.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about Digibyte for I guess over a year now, really, and there was a long time where we were all kind of like, when is DigiassetX coming? I mean, I've been around long enough to wonder when DigiassetX was coming. And so when did you start actually working on DigiassetX?
It's been almost 2 years now, I guess.
Yeah. And so, and then
it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And you went, and it went live. When did it go live?
I don't know. I actually don't know the date that we officially went up.
Yeah.
Probably be easiest to find that on DGB, since he was our first thing. We were originally trying to go up almost a year before on the V2 system. And that's when I found all these problems on V2, is because one of the first things we tried doing is we tried sending on a smart contract some of his assets, and half of them just got burnt.
Oh, weird.
And going through all the coding on what was written there, there was no mistakes there. The server just didn't process the transaction. And since it's one server that was doing everything, since it didn't process it, they were essentially gone.
Yeah.
So
we had to fix it.
So I had to spend pretty much a whole year writing code, which isn't even DigiassetX's code. That's fully public open source code for Digibyte to create the V3 assets, because we needed something that was decentralized and bulletproof, because having a transaction just not be processed is just not good enough.
Yeah. You mentioned DGB, and he is the artist behind DGB Punks and the Galactic Cred comic book, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, those look cool. I like both of those projects. Okay, so before we kind of dive into that, so you, and I hear this all the time when I talk. I talk to people in this space a lot. It's like they enter to do one thing and they're like, okay, well, I got to fix this, and this, or I've got to create this. It's like a guy on Algorand. He came to do a like a betting app, right? And then he realized that there was no Oracle on Algorand. So he had to create an Oracle before he could do his betting app. Anyways, it just seems to be the story of Web3. It's like, okay, we got to do this. So that's what you did. So you worked on that, you fixed that, and then you got DigiassetX. So for everybody out there, what is DigiassetX, and how does it work? And, all of that.
All right. Well, at present, we have an asset marketplace. We have a smart contract system, and we have asset creator. And then we also plan to have a fully functional exchange for both assets and other coins.
Okay. So you're going for, you're gonna build a DEX basically.
DEX, no. So DEX needs an EVM chain, and we're very much Digibyte centered.
Right.
It's going to, we're looking at a hybrid. We're taking some of the features out of the DEX. Right. And then we're also going to be, it is a centralized exchange, but with a lot of cool features that you'll be able to use, and the ability to also sell and trade DigiAssets on it.
Right. So for people listening, so DigiassetX is a layer 2 built on top of the Digibyte blockchain. It's a company, right? It's DigiassetX is a company.
DigiassetX is a company, not a layer 2. So
not
DigiAssets are a layer 2.
Got it.
And we wrote the code for the V3 DigiAssets.
Right.
But that is not DigiassetX. That is a gift to Digibyte.
Got it. So you guys did the layer 2 DigiAssets, and V3 made it better, right? And so when you run a DigiassetX node, you're not running, you would need to, it's not DigiAssets. This is DigiAsset. Please help me here.
Okay. Yes, this is a common confusion here, because DigiassetX wrote all the code, or most of the code for it.
Right.
It's not again, it's a gift to Digibyte. It's a DigiAsset node. It is not a DigiassetX node. It has nothing to do with us, other than DigiassetX is processing the payments to encourage people to run it. But it's a very much a DigiAsset node. And
so there you go. So you're running a DigiAsset node when you run a node, which is a very easy thing to do that takes very little power, correct? I mean, that's
correct. Any computer will easily be able to run it. And it won't draw any more power than just leaving your computer on would.
Oh, wow. So so you can have that going on in the background of your computer, and it's not going to slow you down too much and all that.
No, not really. Like, you'll see a little bit extra bandwidth being used, which is what you're being paid to handle. Right. A little bit of extra storage. Like right now, the DigiAsset storage, I think, is a little over 1 gigabyte. It's not a huge amount. but you're getting paid to store all that data.
Right.
And to share.
Well, there you go. So you truly are basically DigiassetX as a company is essentially giving a gift to Digibyte, because you guys are even rewarding people to, decentralize that layer too.
Yeah.
As a company. Yeah.
I very much believe in not your keys, not your crypto, and decentralization, which is why it wasn't designed as something that is just around us. If DigiassetX were to disappear tomorrow, all the stuff we wrote would still work. The only thing that would disappear is the rewards for running a node, because that is run by us.
Yeah.
But the actual nodes, everything would still work. If you install the node software, you can actually create your own assets right from that using the Core wallet and our software.
So then, okay, so there you go. So if you're running a node, you can do all of this in an extremely decentralized way, or you can mint an asset on DigiassetX, which is a more centralized solution.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you run a DigiAsset node, you're being rewarded through the minting fees on DigiassetX.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when anyone pay, and it's the same price to do it with the software versus on our site. We didn't actually charge an extra fee for it.
Wow.
But if you create an asset, $1.20 per megabyte is paid into a pot, and that gets split up partially to cover our costs, and partially it goes to all the people running nodes to encourage more nodes.
Yeah, it seems like, Digibyte in general is so reliant on the community to actually prioritize Digibyte. You see what they're doing over at the Digibyte Alliance, and, it's like these are all people that just, I don't know. What I've noticed about the Digibyte community is, of course, there's fighting and,
always.
All that. And that's it. There was some drama with, we all know about all that stuff. It doesn't need to be talked about. But outside of that community, loves Digibyte, and there's so many people that work for it for free, which is a hard thing. That's a hard thing, right? And you're somebody that's been working for it for free for a long time at this point.
Yeah, I've put in thousands and thousands of hours into stuff that I have never gotten paid for.
Well, I'm glad that you started this company, and you're taking a little bit of those fees to help, pay for this whole thing. So
they pay they keep the company running. So far, I'm not collecting a salary from my own company either. So.
Okay. Well, you got to get there. I mean, I'm sure if you were on Shark Tank, they would yell at you about not collecting a salary. But that's okay. You'll figure it out. So I want to dive more in, because there's other things like DigiSweep, and I remember a voting tool that you had created a while ago. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But just because we've kind of addressed it a little bit, for everybody, another thing that Digibyte does, or has had a wonderful tool that more people should be using, which is free, is Digi ID. And you've worked a lot around, it gets a little, there's some details in there that sometimes I miss. Like there's Digi ID, there's Digi Password, there's My Digi Password, there's Antum ID, there's, all these different products around it. So because security and because login, username and password is the most annoying thing in the world. You've spent so much time working on it. So what exactly has been done? What can people use now? And like to their benefit, right?
Well, so you mentioned Digi Password, which is an algorithm I created to allow you to create passwords using the technology of Digi ID. It allows you to create passwords for websites that don't support Digi ID. A lot of people have used this. There's a few apps that have this built in now. Digi ID, I didn't create. I did write an app that uses it. And I also encourage some improvements to it, like making sure that it's always on a secure network, and also the asset-based login.
Right.
So okay.
No, go ahead. You go.
Okay. Digi ID, I really like it. It's a really cool way of being able to log into things.
Yeah, well, it is. And you see it. If everybody should go, go to DigiassetX, download the Digi ID app on your phone, and you can see how quick and great, Digi ID works. It's really efficient. It's really good. And so Digi Password is more of a like a plugin. So you can
Antum ID, they created a plugin that you can put on your computer and you can just scan a QR code.
Right.
The Digi Password generates a password that you could type in or just use the plugin. So the Digi Password part creates that password. It always creates the same password for the same site, given a certain seed phrase.
Right. So what are some of these other tools that, Digibyte or, like DigiSweep is a cool thing. Is that something that DigiassetX also, is that something you worked on as well?
Yeah. So I wrote DigiSweep a long time ago. I rolled it into DigiassetX when we actually created the company.
Right.
But it's a tool because it came about because the Digibyte mobile wallet is not standard compliant and it occasionally acts up. So we needed some way of recovering funds for people.
Yeah. So that's
and
it.
It's funny because I keep telling people not to use Digibyte mobile, even though I'm making money off of people that are
using it. It seems to be a theme with you.
Yes, I very much tell people to do things that will make me less money because it's better for them.
I have a tendency sometimes to do that too, where I'm like, wow, if I had just said this, it would have been better for me. But, good. I think that that's a sign of integrity. So there you go, right?
Yeah, and you can tell I'm not pushing products because it makes me money. I'm pushing products because I really believe that people should be using that thing. And I very much believe in standard compliant wallets because with a standard compliant, like if you had, for example, a Ledger, if it breaks or Ledger goes out of business or whatever, because it's a standard compliant wallet, any other wallet that exists, you can just take it off the shelf. Any other competitors like Trezor or whatever, take it off the shelf, put your seed phrase in there, and you got your funds.
Oh, I didn't actually know that. I'm dumb. That's cool.
Yeah, the whole point of the standard compliance is that they all work in the same way. So if, let's be honest, 20 years from now, half of them are going to be gone.
Yeah, especially, there's a lot of ones that me and you, or maybe you have, but I haven't even heard about. I see them pop up on my feed. I'm like, oh, wow, that's so obscure. So if that company goes away, if it's standard compliant, so that's something to know. If you're going to buy an obscure hardware wallet or a lesser known one, make sure that it's standard compliant before you put your money on it.
Right, because as long as it's standard compliant, if it breaks, it goes out of business, stops working, you can use any other wallet to recover your funds. That's safe. 100 years from now, there will still be standard compliant wallets. 100 years from now, who knows? Maybe none of the wallets that exist now will still be here.
Right. Okay. You know what? Actually, I'm going to pivot from where I was going. And because you know so much about this, if you were giving advice to, people that are in the space, but maybe they're not super informed about everything, how to keep them safe. What is, secure online? Like what's your best advice to everybody that's in this space to keep their funds as safe as possible and, some, best practices for them?
Use a good wallet. Write down your seed phrase on paper.
Yeah.
Or you
not in the cloud.
Punch into metal, whatever. But it has to be an offline medium.
Yep.
Do not, under any circumstance, take a screenshot of it or write it on the cloud or anything like that. Because hackers have been really good at finding, oh, but I saved an image and changed the extension. No, they found it. Your funds are gone.
So there you go.
That is fundamental. And the other thing is not your keys, not your crypto. Keep your funds on your own device.
Yeah. Yeah, get them off of exchange, really. And
get them off of exchange. It's funny. I keep telling people this. And I run a centralized wallet myself.
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging people to use it.
It's so funny. But, look, there's also, you can also weigh these things out a little bit. If you're using DigiassetX, it's probably best not to keep all of your Digibyte on DigiassetX.
Definitely don't keep all your funds on there. Like,
no, but
it's
it's secure, but like you can put enough on there to buy your NFTs, to mint your NFTs, to do all those things and have a little extra in there. And if you lose it, it's not the end of the world. And really, with every web wallet, that's probably best practice. Like, don't make that your main wallet, basically.
But it's convenient. It's easy to use. But if you want a little more security, you're doing something big. We wrote the software available. Download it. Run your own node. You can store your assets on that, and then you have your own keys. It's your own thing.
Yep.
And we made the web wallet available because people want something easy. I'm not pushing it though, because I'd actually rather everyone put all their stuff on their own wallet.
Right. And it's pretty easy to set up a node. I have a Raspberry Pi in my closet in the box that I bought with the intention of running a DigiassetX node. So I'll get around to it. But but it's actually, I watched a video of yours, and everybody should watch it because it's a very straightforward process, right?
Yeah.
To run a node?
Pretty much just run the program and it sets everything up.
Okay. So that's always, when I procrastinate, it's always like, oh, wow. Okay.
Well, so the Raspberry Pi is a little more work, but the Raspberry Pi is also really cool that it's a small, quiet form factor, draws very little power, and you can just keep it off to the side.
Yeah. And it can just be over on, can be over on the side, and it's not your main computer. And it's just, all right. What else? I was going to say something else before we got into that. Okay, so DigiSweep, and then I mentioned earlier a voting tool. Are you still working on a voting tool?
So built into the DigiAsset v3 is the ability to create voting assets. Now, we don't have on the web wallet the ability to create them there, but on the decentralized node software, there is actually the ability to create voting assets on there. So you can actually create an asset with a whole bunch of vote options and then send it to a bunch of people.
Yeah, cool. So it works.
If I were to send you a voting option, send you a voting asset to your web wallet, you'd actually see vote as one of the options instead of send.
Oh, cool.
And then a bunch of choices. I should create one and send them to a bunch of people. But
yeah, you should. But just for, even if it's not for anything very serious, just to prove it's worth.
I did actually create one recently because Renzo wanted one, and but nobody gave me their address.
Okay,
I put it up for like 12 hours or whatever while I could wait to give Renzo this, and I didn't get a single hit on anyone giving me an address.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've talked about it, but Renzo's a name that I'm familiar with, and then there is the Elf Society.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, he has done some cool stuff. Like, so so I've seen the elves. The elves are cool, and very popular, right? I think is that one of the more popular projects on DigiassetX?
I think it is one of the more popular projects. I think it's a really cool project.
Yeah. I
have at least one coin chip. I don't have any of the elves. I bid on a couple, but I've lost.
And then there's a newer one called I think Qubit House. Those look cool too. So
yeah, they're really cool. I have a few of them because he gave some away, but
nice. Yeah, it seems like more and more people are figuring this out and being like, wait, I can build on Digibyte, help support. And people out there that are looking for other places to mint their NFTs, I think it's pretty cool that you can run your own node. You can earn, you can help decentralize the platform, and
it's not hard to do. Like, both my kids have made their own assets. And
well, see, that's where I was actually headed. you caught me. Yeah, I've noticed that you have a son and a daughter. I don't know how many kids if you have more, but you certainly have two. You have two, and they're both minting on DigiassetX, right?
Yeah.
Are they both? I've seen a lot of Minecraft skins, which is so cool.
Yeah, my son is obsessed with Minecraft, and my daughter has come up with some ideas of her own too. But
Uh-huh.
So,
Are they, that's got to be so fun for you as somebody that is so in the space and seeing your kids kind of grow into it. So they're computer people too, huh? They know what they're doing a little bit.
yeah, like I showed them how to do it and walked them through it a few times, and now they're doing it all on their own, and
that's so cool.
They're having fun.
Yeah. How do you mind if I ask you how old they are?
No problem. My son's 9 and my daughter's 11.
Oh, cool. So they're close in age. That's awesome. All right. And then what else do I want to make sure we talk? So, all right, let me just look real quick. See, I have right here, son and daughter minting assets.
Sorry, I screwed up your plans.
Yeah, right. Oh, is there? I saw that there's a bit of an overhaul coming, right? You're gonna kind of tweak the UI. You have some things in store. So what can people look forward to coming with DigiassetX?
Well, it's going to be in a couple stages, but we have a new developer working on the front end, so they're going to make some cosmetic changes to make things look a little nicer. And then there's a complete overhaul to add some more features, ability to sort, and the ability to sort and the ability to filter by shop is actually already there, but it's kind of hidden features. You can put them into link, but a lot of these things will be actually put into the UI, make it more user-friendly, make it look nicer. You'll notice anything I build tends to have a 90s type look to it, because
that's where you started.
I'm not a graphics guy. Most of my code is very much back end. It keeps the server that makes everything work. So.
Right. Yeah. So your functionality maybe over form. I don't know if that's proper. Yeah, but
my ideal is functionality 0 form. In the ideal world, I wouldn't have made any of the user interface of this website, and it would actually be somebody else, and they'd just call the API calls I created.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, it sounds like you got some people working on it though. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay. So then, kind of going back to Digibyte I kind of hinted at there's been some stuff, but there has been a couple of things that have come up recently that maybe you might have some insight on. I haven't really been talking about it because I don't quite understand all the details about that. And maybe you're going to say the same thing. So, because I don't want to kind of jump out with this stuff, but there was this, and FUD or not, there was a lot of talk about the supply cap, the 21 billion, that there is an infinite supply, which obviously would be a disaster, but that's not exactly true. What do you know about that? Or what can you say about all that?
So yes, there's a bug in the 7.17 that in 2035, if it wasn't fixed, would increase the amount of Digibyte in existence by roughly 5,000 per day. It's not a huge error, but yeah, there was an error there. It needs to be fixed, but it doesn't need to be fixed anytime before 2035. It makes zero effect before that.
Okay.
Now, once this was pointed out, and I helped Chilling Silence run the math on it to verify what he found, and he's right. I actually suggested we should extend the distribution to 2070. And that way, we can give a bit nice, smoother of a curve going down to 0, and then chop off there. It also would help with the mining and stuff to go a little longer.
Yeah. Make it then so basically what you do is you just increase the difficulty and it just will go until 2070.
Well, basically you'd reduce assuming you did it right away, I figured out we could reduce the payouts on Digibyte very minutely, and just because of those tiny little bit difference, And the time from now to 2035, we'd have enough coins left over still in 2035 that we could keep it going on that curve right to 2070.
Right. Now, are people kind of saying like, no, because we can fix this easily and we're just going to stick to the plan? Is that the opinion there?
Fixing it was never really the issue, because that is an easy fix. It's the suggestion of putting out to 2070 has a bit of a, some people think, oh, we want to keep the 2035. I don't know why. Like it's an arbitrary date.
Yeah. But what would, so then if the fix of the supply is an easy thing, what do you see as the benefit of extending it to 2070?
It's just, so like when you're mining, you're getting paid the TX fees and the mining reward.
Right.
So by extending those mining fees out to 2070, it encourages more miners.
Got it. Yeah.
Whereas at present, by 2035, we need those TX fees need to be big enough that they will completely cover the mining costs.
Well, and that's when we start catching up a little bit to to Bitcoin. You know, that's when those immediate, like, oh my gosh, I paid nothing to move this, starts to change.
Well, no, that won't change because the user sets the fees. What would change is before that date, we would have to change to POS, or we would need to be doing all the world's transactions. And yes, we're now slow again because fees are high.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't it wouldn't happen just because of the date. It just have to happen, or we need to switch to POS because there won't be enough money to fund the mining. But that is an option. Switching to POS, like all the downsides to POS really don't, there aren't very many downsides once you get to 99% of your distribution. Like one of the biggest downsides to POS is it's not a fair distribution. Once you hit 99%, you're not really distributing very much more coins. So
right. Well, and there's trade-offs, you're absolutely right. As you're distributing the coins, POS definitely does. There's a centralized feeling to it, rewarding the richest and all of that a lot of people rightfully have a problem with. But, you see it. You saw it with, Bitcoin in China. And I think Johnny Law, he's been educating people on a lot of the things that he's seen. I see him online talking in some chats about like certain miners. I don't know how much you know about this, but it does seem like there are some miners out there that have an awful lot of Digibyte.
There are definitely some miners out there with some big operations that are producing a lot of the Digibyte.
Yeah.
Now, most of them aren't keeping Digibyte. They're mostly selling it for Bitcoin.
It does. Okay. So, but isn't there a wallet? Do you know? And now I'm getting into a little more speculative of mode. So if you don't know, it doesn't matter. But isn't there a wallet out there that has like 2 to 3 billion Digibyte in it?
I'm pretty sure that's Bitrix's wallet. But yes, there's definitely.
Okay. Well, if it's Bitrix, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So that's not quite what I was thinking. Good. I like that. All right. Well, what are you, DigiassetX? So now that, so it's separate than DigiAssets. So you're a company using DigiassetX, helping support DigiAssets. Is your vision for DigiassetX for it to be multi-chain, or is this only a Digibyte, your only intention is here on Digibyte?
No, we've definitely planned to have the exchange on other chains and other support systems. Mm-hmm. I do have some experience with EVM. I helped Potcoin swap over from their UTXO chain, which was dying, to Polygon. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see some bridging of assets possibly, but definitely allowing trading between coins or tokens that are on other chains as being an option.
That's great. So how do you do that? So how do you get these bridges? Because that's something that we're all trying to, I think nowadays it's going to be a multi-chain world. I think people are realizing that, and bridges are like the most you know, that's what we're always seeing. Oh, it's just like $600 million was stolen from Axie Infinity or whatever, or the wormhole hack or whatever. How, you know, what's your vision for actually securing that and being able to make that happen?
Going back to the more traditional centralized approach where you deposit and you withdraw from another exchange.
Right.
Does put a centralized hub in there, but it does also make it a lot easier to keep things secure from somebody that's manipulating the chain data.
Right. And you're building, and your partner your partner here is Change Angel, right? You two are working on this together. That's correct. And have you guys been working together for a long time? Is this a long time partnership? Yeah,
we've been working right from the beginning together.
Cool.
They're actually the ones that convinced me to do
it. So, I mean, what is it, you know, as we wind down here, what is it that you, like, what do you see with, you know, crypto and blockchain and the metaverse and where everything seems to be headed? Like, what excites you and, you know, what concerns you?
Well, I don't see much of the metaverse being a huge thing like people think it is. Like, I've been in the VR world since the 90s. I bought my first VR glasses back in 1990 something.
Okay.
Like, they've improved, but there's one major thing that's missing from VR that is kind of needed for them to really explode. And that's the ability to use them anywhere.
Yeah. Well, right. Right. And then also, not to mention, you know, it does seem like, you know, the metaverse has become the new, you know, there was like Bitcoin was exciting, and then NFTs were exciting. And now, you know, they're still exciting kind of. And then NFTs are exciting. And there's a lot of utility and there's a lot of great things happening with NFTs. And now it's the metaverse is exciting, you know, and there's going to be a whole economy around NFTs. And all the money people are starting to be like, all right, well, we can cash in on this. And so
there's cool things that can go in it. And I don't in any way say it's not going to be anything. I just don't think it's the huge hype, because 99% of people aren't going to buy VR goggles.
Yeah.
99% of people, even 99% of people that have VR goggles aren't going to spend a large amount of time on it, because you essentially need a whole room dedicated to using it.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything else. And we've very much become a society of multitasking.
Yeah.
You go watch a movie now while on your TV on Netflix, and go look around at your family members, and some of them will be occasionally checking Twitter and all these other things. Can't even sit through a whole movie without checking the device.
It's frustrating. I've gotten so much worse at it myself too. Like, it's just,
it's
pathetic. My poor children, because now I'm, you know, my work is a lot to do with me on these things. So I'm just sitting there on my phone, and my kids are feeling ignored. And then I'm teaching them these bad habits that and then they're going to be 12, and then they're going to be ignoring me. And I'm going to wonder why that happened.
It really is a hard issue, because we're very much, we want these things. They're really cool, but they also, as you said, it's bad habits. And that switch between work and home life is disappearing. And until we have something like, there's two technologies I could see of possibly making the metaverse be more realistic. And that's smart glasses that give you not VR, but
like augmented reality?
Augmented. That's where I'm looking for. Augmented reality, where now you're in the world, you can do other things, but at the same time, data from the metaverse is inside your field of view and within your world. HoloLens had a really cool demonstration where you could put a TV on the wall that wasn't actually there, but as you're moving around, you could actually see this TV. You could have some little Pikachu pet running around your house that stays in the house, but is only visible to anyone wearing these glasses. Now there's multiple companies working on it, but when that gets to the point where it's affordable and user-friendly, that I can see being more of a push.
Yeah. Well, I think that's certainly going to happen. And then, you know, there's obviously already work meetings are kind of being, you know, brought into the metaverse a little bit. People are meeting a little bit in there.
People are playing around with it, but it's not the serious, big, huge thing. There's gamers are going to do it, yes, but to really be the big thing that everyone's thinking of it, you need 10% of the population doing it, not 0.1 of 0.1.
Right. Well, and then not to mention, even if it's scaled to this point where 10, 30, 20, 30, 40, 50% of the population were using it, imagine, you know, we already have a chip shortage. Imagine the power, like the, you know, what we would need in order to power all that for people to actually embody the internet in that way, right?
Well, the chip shortage is a fixable thing. Like currently there's a very few companies that can make these small chips, but more of the machines to build them can be produced. More of these things can be produced. It just takes time to actually produce it.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're willing to go through crazy steps, you can get around these shortages too. But
so so you're.
Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, I think that you're, so I see you're skeptical about the metaverse, but so what do you think about, you know, what about Bitcoin and like quantum computers and, you know, that thing that everybody tries to like, you know, talk about?
That's a really interesting subject that I really like because movies have done a really horrible job of depicting quantum computers. So there are some truths and there's a lot of lies involved in what people think a quantum computer can do.
Oh, let's tell me.
So a couple things. Quantum computers are, in fact, able to factor, like a quantum computer with 514 qubits would be able to factor a Bitcoin public key into its private key. That's real. Currently, I think the current best is about 50 qubits, so we're ways away, but they're growing very quickly. But the other thing that people don't know, the movies show that a quantum computer can do just about anything it wants to. That's not true. They're able to solve certain problems, like factoring extremely large primes. One thing they can't do is they can't reverse a hash. So they're no good at mining, and they're also unable to take a Bitcoin address and figure out the private key. So they need the public key of the address, and the only time you ever expose your public key is when you spend.
Right.
So when you're if you're using Bitcoin or Digibyte properly, every time you spend coins, you should be creating a new address and sending the change to that. So that old address's public key is now exposed, but there's no funds on it. So who cares?
Right. Okay. So that's what's happening every time you spend.
Right.
You send.
So all the good wallets like Coinomi, Digibyte, or the Core wallet, Ledger, every single time you create a transaction, it will actually take the funds and send them to where you're going, as well as they'll create a change address for the change.
Got it. Okay.
There are a few bad wallets out there like Bitfee that don't do this, but all the good wallets do.
Got it. So what you're saying is that some of that fear is just, or it truly is just FUD a little bit, because the only thing that they can
is.
Yeah.
Well, now, in the case of Bitcoin, for example, when you send funds, it's now exposed. There is a time delay of when you create the transaction to when it actually gets confirmed, where the quantum computer could steal the funds.
Got it. Well, that's real.
But here's another thing where the movies don't fit reality. A quantum computer doesn't instantaneously give you the right answer. It does, to some extent, but it gives you like a million answers that you need to figure out which one's the right one. So it's estimated it would actually take about 8 hours to figure out what the private key is of the of the public key for a Bitcoin address. So it's not an instantaneous thing. As long as your transaction takes less than 8 hours, you're fine. So all that means is if you're sending from a wallet that has a lot of money, you better pay the fee to make it go fast.
Yeah.
If you're sending from a small amount, who cares? They might steal a little bit, but quantum computers cost tens of thousands of dollars an hour to rent. You're not going to use it to steal money from or steal a dollar.
Yeah. Yeah. For me sending, $20 worth of Bitcoin to Twitter in order, whatever Michael Saylor had some idea today about authenticating people, where you have to do something with about $20 worth of Bitcoin. Oh shit. What was I going to say? I had it. Okay. So then just crypto in general. Let's just pivot to that real quick. So, I see a couple of things happening here, in the world, and, there's some demonization of proof of work and the environment and the power that it uses. And there's, pros and cons to both of it. And there's arguments, I guess is the right word. There's arguments on both sides of that I agree with. I can agree with both sides on that for a lot of it. But at the same time, the strength that it brings, the decentralization that it brings, and the fact that all that to money, and that money can't be shut down. I think we see examples in the world now where maybe you believe that money should be shut down to those people, but at the same time, on a grander scale, it's not a great thing. You wouldn't want it to happen to you, type of thing. So I see things like Bitcoin and Litecoin and Digibyte and some others. They really do that well. And Digibyte with DigiAssets kind of bridges these worlds, and what you're building on Digibyte kind of bridges the world of, then there is decentralized finance, and there's opportunity that creates for everyday people, where I don't have to be a millionaire to get the same opportunities that a millionaire would get, like they would in the traditional finance world. Sorry, I kind of rambled through that. But so these are the two things that excite me about the space, right? And then there's gaming and the fun things too, the metaverse and all that stuff, the excitement of like future technology. But really what gets me going is the fact that there's some money that is sound, that can't be shut down, that's non-inflationary. And then there is a whole, like, kind of basically, democratizing banking. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, like I see both pros and cons to everything. Like, the mining is an environmental issue to some extent, but it's also, let's put it into comparison, it's actually cleaner than the banking system is now.
Absolutely.
Now, Bitcoin, in the next couple of years, as they're going, if things keep going the way they will flip the banking system at some point. Yeah. But the banking system isn't needed if we all switched over. Yeah. And the beauty of how Bitcoin in that is, and we can clean up Bitcoin in that. And a lot of the mining is being done on green energy. Like, I was mining using solar panels, and all my power I don't produce from solar panels comes from hydroelectricity where I live. A lot of the bigger mining operations are in Canada, at least, are in Montreal and Manitoba, because both those provinces have a lot of hydroelectricity, and hydroelectricity is cheap.
Right.
So miners look for cheap electricity, and cheap electricity tends to be green.
Well, there you go. Especially nowadays, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because you put in the hardware in place, and then it's essentially free electricity for the producers. So a lot of the cheaper electricity around the world is hydroelectricity, solar power, stuff like that. And a lot of miners are taking advantage of this. And there's also a lot of these mining companies actually have deals with the hydro companies, where they'll let the hydro companies regulate how much power they're using, because mining equipment can be shut down and rebooted almost instantly. Yeah. And that allows the hydro company to better regulate their power usage, because if you have a hydroelectric dam, for example, and you can't sell all your power, you just burn it off. You can't. Exactly. Unless you have huge battery banks sitting around. And sometimes they do have big battery banks, and sometimes they'll have basically they'll make a man-made lake on top of a hill, and they'll pump water up to it, and then the water reverse to regenerate electricity. There's some really cool ways that electrical companies can deal with this. But by having on-demand power, large on-demand power usages like this, they can better regulate how much power is being used to better deal with how much they have.
Right.
So there are some positive sides to it also. Absolutely.
And that's clearly where miners in the U.S. are headed as well. I mean, they use excess gas, and everybody's going to have to get innovative with that for sure, and kind of address that environmental aspect. So you mine? Do you mine Bitcoin still?
I don't really. I don't have anything running at the moment. It's I sold off pretty much all the hardware I had.
Got it. So not exactly currently.
Not currently. No, I did heat my house over the winter with that, but.
Oh, did you? Well, see, that's another thing that, especially, you know, where you are, and if you keep on going north, you could use the heat. I know I have a friend that he mines Bitcoin and kind of heats his house up in Canada with it, so it works. Okay, so final question, because decentralization, and you know, I know that you have some central, you know, DigiassetX is centralized in some way. You know, there's aspects to it. How important is it? Is it a spectrum? Like, how do you see decentralization? How important is it? And you know, what do you think of the current state of it? Because that's another one. It's like metaverse, and then also decentralization is a buzzword a lot of times too, and it's said about things that are clearly not decentralized.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So what I think decentralization is a very important thing. That's that's one of the fundamental things that was built into the V3 assets, is it must run without me.
Yes. And how many, by the way, before you go on, how many nodes, how many V3 nodes are out there? Do you know?
It varies. It's been as high as 40 at one point. At present, it's 13, but
okay. So. Well, so we need some more people to join. And it like you said, this does okay. So look, I need to contribute to that. I want to contribute to that. It's because you said it. You said it. It's a very easy thing to do.
Yep. Run the software, and if you agree to the terms and give us an address, you start getting paid off of it, which is nice to see a little bit of extra Digibyte being added to your wallet every day. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, if there's only 13 out there, I know more than 13 Digibyte supporters are going to be watching this video. So you and we got to do this. I'll do a video. Maybe I can do a video on how to set it up. It's probably way too easy to just watch your video, but I mean, maybe I'll do it.
Just go set one up. How about you go through the whole process and actually set up a core wallet and actually go create an asset yourself? Because
that's what I should do. I'll do that.
I like seeing people create their own assets. Like, yeah, you can use our wallet and use our service for making your own assets, and that's cool.
Yeah,
but
do it.
There's actually more features if you use the IPF. If you use the decentralized version, like the ability to create voting assets, and that wallet actually gives you the ability to send to thousands of people at once. Like,
okay, but I interrupted you. I'm sorry. So, but I was just saying, like, that I feel like we can get those numbers up here.
Yeah.
And I know we can by one at least, because I have control over that. But okay, so you were talking about decentralization. It's very important. That's why V3, you wanted to make sure that continued to run even without you.
Right.
So go ahead, and yeah, so that's where we were.
So like all the data is being stored on the IPFS network. Nothing is. I have a server that is processing data, but that's not necessarily needed. It's just there to make it more convenient. Now, I'm currently learning C++, and I plan to actually rewrite that code into C++ and actually embed it into the wallet so that you won't even need to with that software. But at present, anyone could write the software themselves too. It's all open source. It's all available.
Yeah. So that's another thing. If you can do that one, they could do that real quick, right? All right, how quick. And then now you clearly aren't completely against any sort of centralized entities, because your vision for your marketplace is going to be a centralized marketplace, right?
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to the centralized systems because sometimes they're needed.
Yeah.
Like, we have a centralized smart contract system. It works well, but we're not. Digibyte is not a Turing complete system, so there's limitations on what can be done.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if everything was decentralized, but then sometimes that makes things a lot harder too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, yeah, cool. And you said it, your efficiency is what brought you here. And sometimes centralized things are a little more efficient. I get it. You know, we all get it. Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, is there, when you look out into the space, is there other projects that you look at and think, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, they're doing a good job over there as well. Like, I like that, you know?
Well, there's a lot of cool digi assets, like as you mentioned, the Qubit, the Beyond Personas, the Elves.
Yeah.
I like some of the things my kids are doing. Some of them are a little interesting. It's like
you're like, that's nice.
My daughter made one asset that was a sword that was dripping blood. I was impressed, but at the other time thinking,
you're like, what's going on here? You're like, you're my 11-year-old daughter, and is that a gunshot wound? Yeah.
No, it's cool. Minecraft related, but still.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a gamer? Now I'm just like, I'm just completely devolving this into just a chat. Sorry, but are you a gamer?
I am not. I have a hard time sitting and doing something like that. There are some games like I've really enjoyed playing some of the role-playing games like Final Fantasy and that, but I'm not much for an interactive game where you're time-based. You have to do things at a certain amount of time.
Yes.
That doesn't really interest me too much. I like puzzles.
Yeah, you're a puzzle guy. Well, that makes sense with.
I like board games. I really like shogi, but I can't find anyone to play with me.
Not even your wife, huh? She's not interested.
No, my wife and kids have all played me, and then since I won, they refused to play again. Well,
see, you got to be more strategic, man. You got to let them. You got to
lose on purpose to get them to play with me.
Oh man, I've learned that because I was ping pong. I did that with ping pong. A friend of mine was like, "Do you want this?" And I had some garage space at the time, so I was like, "Sure, let's bring the ping pong table over." And then my kid was loving it, but I just kept on beating him because this attitude, like, well, that's how he's going to get better. And then what that did do is just be like, okay, we don't need to play ping pong. I never win. This is frustrating. So however it goes, you know, we're all figuring it out, you know, as we go. That's it. All right, man. Well, hey, I took we're over an hour here. Thank you for spending all of this time with me. I hope everybody found it informative. You should definitely run a node and, you know, mint some assets on DigiassetX. It's quick, it's cheap, it's, you know, very user-friendly, and it's only going to get more user-friendly as you guys, you know, improve the UI and all that. So
it's nice chatting with you. And I definitely like to see more assets being created. There's a lot of cool developers out there with cool ideas, and take some time, make something, make it cool.
Yeah, make it cool. I mean, and I've seen it. There's a lot of there's animated things that are going. There's games. I saw some. Is there a game?
Yeah, I really like Renzo. He's a really cool guy because I added that feature into the DigiAssets and then didn't tell anyone.
Really? And then he figured it out on his own?
He found it on his own and started doing it. Like, I was very impressed because.
So tell me, I actually haven't seen these games. So what are or maybe I have seen. I've seen animated images of what look like sort of like a game. But what is Renzo doing?
So go look on the marketplace, market.digiassetx.com. And but if you go look at some of the stuff from Renzo, you'll notice like he has a Pong style game where you can actually Yeah, he's got his first one was a little mine cart that you could move back and forth to catch the falling assets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
He's made some cool stuff. Like
Nice.
I made a little asset that made a fractal, and it actually did it as you're watching, and it was all interactive. And
That's
then,
cool.
yeah, he went and just saw how I did it and went. I didn't even tell him how to do it.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right. Yeah. So yeah, everybody use it. Let's do it. Like, I think it's great. It's like a decentralized, well, it's DigiAssets. It's so nice to see DigiAssets actually up and, running and people using it. Right. I mean, that's gotta be,
yeah, it is.
That's an exciting thing. So, cool. I'm going to run a node. I'm going to do it. And then I will go through the whole process. I'll mint an asset and I will, figure out how to display that to help people learn how to do it. Maybe, hopefully it won't be confusing. Hopefully I'll make it not confusing. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'll put some links in the description for DigiassetX, and then maybe I'll put a link in for your video on how to set up a node just in the meantime, so people can immediately get to work if they want to.
Sounds great.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Okay, bye.